Well, Wade MacLauchlan is the Premier of Prince Edward Island. He joins me from the First Minister's meeting site in Montreal. Premier MacLauchlan, first of all, thanks for taking time out of a busy schedule to speak with me. I do appreciate it.
My pleasure, Peter.
So the tensions have been rising ahead of this meeting over the agenda and what premiers want this meeting to be about. Where do you stand on that?
Look, Peter, I think it's pretty clear that we're going to be talking about both the internal economy and the external economy, trade diversification. We're going to be talking about the environment. We're going to be meeting with Indigenous leaders, and I expect there's room within all of that to get all of our everything said that we need to say, and especially to listen to each other. So, look, I went, well, my first meeting, Peter, First Ministers, was in November of 2016, and it had been 7 years since there'd been such a meeting. So I'm very appreciative of the fact that I'm here, and I hope others will be here, and we'll get some work done.
But do you think some of your colleagues have legitimate concerns about the agenda as it was laid out, and they've been pushing hard to get it changed? Not sure the formal agenda will be changed, but it sounds like there could be room to have the kinds of discussions they want to have. But do you agree that they had a point in trying to get some of what they see as more urgent issues at the front end of that discussion?
There's a give and take that comes with confederation, with relations between provinces, regions, federal government. But we shouldn't find that surprising. And with the time that we have tonight informally and tomorrow at the table, I'm glad that there's some pushing, but I hope nobody gets to the point where they think that we need to have a breakdown, because we're very fortunate to live in a great country like we do in Canada, and I'm here to represent Prince Edward Island, but I'm also here to do the good work and the hard work of making Canada work.
Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, says if it's not the discussion he wants and the agenda he wants, he's prepared to walk out of the meeting. Do you support that?
One of Premier Ford's predecessors, John Robarts, called a meeting in 1967, the Confederation of Tomorrow conference, that the Prime Minister didn't want to come to, and that led to a lot of good things. We have to be at the table, we have to work together, and you know, we have to spend some time personally together. A lot of what we can do for Canadians starts by listening to each other.
One of the concerns that, so you don't agree that if you have a problem with the way the meeting is set up, it's not useful to walk away from it. That would be your view.
I wouldn't say that about this table, and I wouldn't say it generally pertains in public life, Peter. All of us who are coming here tonight and tomorrow deal with some pretty difficult issues, and there's nothing better than to get people together and have it out, or listen, especially to listen, and to intend to come away from here with some results for Canadians. And I was thinking earlier today, Peter, like I was here in October of 1995 for that big Canada rally, and we're just a few feet away from there now. Now, Canada was facing tougher times then. I was here, I actually happened to be in Montreal in December of 1989, the Polytechnic massacre. Now, we have some real problems that we face in this country, and we got to deal with them, and the issues that we have on the table here are certainly issues on which we can build on success, frankly, and get the work done.
But when you looked at that agenda, because this is what we're hearing from some of your colleagues, that you know, there are going to be presentations from several cabinet ministers, and a number of them have said, look, we didn't come to Montreal to be lectured to about federal policy. Is that the way you looked at this?
I've been to those tables before. I'm not. It's funny to say this because, you know, I've been Premier less than 4 years, and I'm now among the provincial premiers, the second most senior, and you add in Bob McLeod, I'm the third most senior. So there's been a lot of change. But when I've been at these tables, it may indeed indicate that there's going to be, you know, a federal minister at the table, but I don't think they, you know, these are people who've been in public life a long time. I think they'd be wasting their time to spend much time lecturing. It's to engage with each other, to set for a discussion with some real issues that we're trying to address, and we certainly have. And trade, both internal and external, on the environment, on relations with Indigenous leaders, on other issues that will come up in the course of the meetings. And none of them are beyond resolution, except, of course, if we decide not to talk.
Right, but I mean, the point they're making is that, look, you don't get these First Ministers conferences that often, these meetings that often, and so when you do get them, you and your colleagues, some of these premiers say, look, we want direct time with the Prime Minister. We don't need to hear from a federal cabinet minister. We want, if there's time to hear from cabinet ministers, it should be time to be meeting and talking with the Prime Minister.
And I think that point has been made, but I wouldn't take it to the point of asking that the cabinet ministers not be there. We can get things done with them too, but this is a First Minister's meeting, no question. And let's make sure we use our time to the greatest possible purpose and with some real results for Canadians, and frankly to intend to, next time we come together, to take that further. And when you look at what we're dealing with here, the Canadian economy is in pretty good shape, but frankly, it's fragile. The economies are. One of the number one ingredients to make an economy successful is public confidence, business confidence. So that's one of our jobs, frankly, here together as First Ministers and whoever else wants to help out to make that possible. And then when you really get beyond the generalities, there's a lot of hard work in terms of details. I've got dairy farmers in Prince Edward Island who want me to be here paying attention to what's going to be done for transitions to deal with the changes that are being brought about that certainly affect them in trade. There's something called TRQs that most Canadians don't need to know about, or certainly don't need to wake up tomorrow morning worried about. But if the premiers and the Prime Minister aren't paying attention to that, then Canadians have a problem. So this is a precious time, and it's a time when anything we get done together will be good for Canadians, and it will be good for Canadians' confidence that they can get on with their lives and do well.
What do you feel of, some of your colleagues have suggested, look, one of the premiers said, why are we talking about apple vodka from Nova Scotia and the rules around selling that when we should be talking about layoffs in the oil patch and the oil price gap in Alberta and Saskatchewan? We should be talking about asylum seekers. We should be talking about carbon taxes. And I know you've got some thoughts on that in Prince Edward Island. But I guess the concern was that the issues that the Premier see as top of mind and the biggest challenges aren't the ones the federal government wanted to talk about at this meeting.
So, Peter, everybody who's there tomorrow has been at thousands of meetings. And I certainly have. I spent prior life in a university where we had thousands of meetings. And of course you have to spend some time agenda setting, but that doesn't take up the whole meeting. So let's get there, let's decide what sort of a ordre du jour that we're going to have, and get on with it, because frankly dark or dusk is going to come on Friday and we'll go home. And I for one want to go home to tell Prince Edward Islanders that I've done something for Prince Edward Island and to make Canadian Confederation work better.
All right, just one last question, Premier. How much of this do you think is about the change in the faces around the table? There are no longer any Liberal premiers west of New Brunswick. So is this politics playing out more than it is your colleagues thinking that there are other issues that need to be talked about?
Look, we're all politicians, and everybody's got something that they're keeping an eye on in terms of their home community or other kind of political issues they've got an eye on. But we got our jobs through politics, but our job here tomorrow and tonight is not to do politics, or it's not to be partisan. It's to get things done, to be clear, to be sure. The ones who don't want to talk about vodka, well, let's get that done. And the next time we have one of these meetings, I'd be very happy if booze was not the first thing on the agenda. But it's not going to be, that's not going to change unless we make an agenda, talk about it, see how long it takes us, get it dealt with, and move on. And if somebody thinks we better, and I worked in the oil rigs, as a youngster, so I understand how oil affects all of Canada, and I understand the part that it plays in our total economy. So I think absolutely we got to be talking about everything from climate change to the petroleum, to the dairy farmers, to the environment and trade in and out of Canada, and that's exactly what I intend. I think, frankly, the agenda's got all kinds of space to do that and to do it effectively, and to both say our part and listen.
All right, Prince Edward Island Premier Wade MacLauchlan, thanks for your time, Premier, and good luck at the meeting.
Great, Peter. Look forward to it. Thanks.